Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if using technology makes us less careful about hurting others? Well, this new study has some eye-opening findings. So the big question here is whether using artificial intelligence or AI actually makes it easier for people to do bad things. And if so, why researchers notice that AI is popping up everywhere, from helping us write emails to making big decisions in fields like medicine and warfare. While AI promises to make things easier, it might also be making it easier to cause harm. This study dives deep into whether AI gives people permission, so to speak, to act in ways they normally wouldn't, by making those actions seem less wrong. The researchers suspected that AI might be messing with our moral perception. Think of moral perception as your brain's ability to spot when something wrong is happening. It's like having a built-in radar for unethical behavior. They believe that using AI can actually dull this radar, making it harder for us to see the harm we're causing. This happens because AI can obscure key parts of what makes us feel like something is morally wrong. Usually when we see harm, we notice an intentional agent, like a person, causing damage to a suffering victim AI. They argue can weaken our sense of being the intentional agent, stretch out the connection between our actions and the bad results, and kind of hide the suffering victim from our view. To test this, they ran 6 different studies with over 1,000 people in both the United States and China. They looked at different kinds of harm, from financial cheating to delivering electric shocks. In the first study, they looked at financial harm. Participants played a game where they could send messages to another person to earn more money for themselves, but at the other person's expense. Some people sent these messages themselves, while others used an AI to send the messages. What they found was pretty striking. People who used the AI sent more deceptive messages. They cheated more when the AI did the dirty work. And get this, they were also less likely to even realize they were being deceptive. It is like the AI created a fog around their moral compass. Then they wanted to see if this effect extended to physical harm. This is where things get even more serious. They had participants in a lab setting believe they were delivering electric shocks to another person for money. Again, some participants delivered the shocks themselves, while others instructed an AI to do it. And guess what? Those who used the AI delivered more and stronger electric shocks. This is a big deal because it shows that AI isn't just making us cheat in games, it can actually make us more willing to inflict physical pain on someone else. The researchers then dug into why this happens. They proposed that when things get morally heavy, we tend to look for ways to avoid making the tough decision ourselves. This is like passing the buck. In study 3, they presented people with different scenarios. Some with no harm, some with low harm, and some with high harm, like in classic moral dilemmas. For each scenario, participants could choose to make the decision themselves or delegate it to an AI. They found that people were much more likely to hand over decisions to the AI when the potential for harm was higher. The worse the situation, the more they wanted the AI to handle it. This led them to another key question. Does it matter how smart the AI seems? In study 4, they made the AI seem either highly autonomous, like it could make its own judgments, or like a simple tool that just followed orders. They found that people were way more likely to delegate harmful decisions to the AI when it seemed really smart and independent. The more they saw the AI as a thinking being, the more they were willing to let it make the bad decisions. This suggests that the AI acts like a shield, absorbing the blame that would normally fall on the person. But what about the other side of the coin, the victim? Remember how they said AI can hide the suffering victim from view? In study 5, they tested this directly. They used that same deception game from study 1, but this time, they either described the victim abstractly as another participant, or made the victim vivid by giving them a name, a photo, and a description of their financial struggles. The results were powerful. When the victim was abstract, the AI still helped people deceive more. But when the victim was made vivid and relatable, that AI effect completely disappeared. People were no longer more likely to deceive when using AI if they could clearly see and empathize with the person they were harming. Finally, they looked at what happens after harm occurs. In study 6, people imagined using AI in realistic scenarios, like a doctor using a medical AI or a driver using an autonomous car, where the AI contributed to a bad outcome. They then had to decide who was to blame. They found that when the AI was seen as more autonomous, people were much more likely to blame the AI and less likely to blame themselves, especially if they had chosen to follow the AI's advice. It's like the AI becomes the scapegoat. So, what does all this mean? The core takeaway from this research is that AI doesn't just make harmful actions more convenient. It actually alters our perception of those actions, making them seem less immoral. It does this by weakening the core elements that normally trigger our moral condemnation, the agent, the causal link, and the victim. When we use AI, we feel less like the agent causing the harm. The connection between our choices and the bad outcome feels stretched, and the victim's suffering can become less apparent. This is why people are more willing to delegate morally heavy tasks to AI, especially when the AI is perceived as autonomous. And crucially, when we can clearly see and empathize with the victim, this effect largely disappears. The study highlights that AI isn't necessarily creating a new kind of bad behavior, but rather amplifying old tendencies by obscuring the moral signals that usually stop us. Think of it like driving a car with foggy windows. You can still drive, but you are much more likely to hit something because you can't see clearly. AI can act like those foggy windows for our moral perception. Now, it's important to note the study's limitations. For instance, Study 2 had a smaller sample size, and they used simulated AI in controlled lab settings, not always real-world AI interactions. They also didn't measure things like how tech-savvy people are or their level of empathy, which could change how they react. And they used behavioral evidence to support their theory of moral perception, rather than directly measuring brain activity. But the consistent pattern across all 6 studies, especially how people fail to recognize their own deception when using AI, really strengthens their argument. The practical implications here are huge. If AI licenses harm by obscuring our moral perception, then we can design AI systems and educate users to counteract this. One way is to make the elements of harm harder to miss. This could involve things like requiring users to identify the people affected before delegating, providing clear feedback on the consequences of AI actions, or even building in slight delays between a command and its execution. Another approach is to reduce the perceived autonomy of AI systems. If people understand that AI doesn't truly have intentions or consciousness, they might be less inclined to see it as a responsible agent that can take the blame. The goal isn't to make AI seem scary, but to keep the parts of harm that trigger our moral judgment clear and visible. Making the victim vivid helps us see them. And reducing the perceived autonomy of AI helps us remember that we are still the ones in charge, and thus responsible. It's fascinating to think about how technology can both help and hinder our moral reasoning. This research provides a crucial lens for understanding how we interact with AI and how we can ensure it's used ethically. It reminds us that even with advanced technology, our own moral awareness and responsibility remain paramount. What do you all think about these findings? Does AI make it easier for you to justify questionable actions? Let us know in the comments below, and if you found this interesting, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science breakdowns, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.